Bigler and Michael Romei. We are talking food, restaurants, and writing. Joining us is Javier Rodriguez, the Director of Operations of New York City's landmark River Cafe, and Bryan Miller, the legendary cookbook author and former critic at the New York Times. Hi, guys.
Hi there.
Hello. How's it going?
So you guys are good friends. How did you meet?
We met. I went to dinner at the cafe, I think so. And we just started talking, speaking in Spanish, and we just talked about Costa Rica. And he said, I thought it was half joking, let's go to Costa Rica. And like later, we were there. We went.
And you don't joke to me about going to Costa Rica.
You don't joke to Javier about anything because he will take it there.
Yeah, right.
I'll make it happen. No, but really, I remember it was in 2012. And Sandy happened on October 29, 2012. We were planning on going to Costa Rica in December. We met. I remember I got the award from you, the Concierges, in October 1st, and it was like a very exciting time in my life. And Bryan is like, let's go. And I'm like, okay, let's go. I haven't seen my mom in a while. And then we closed the restaurant in October 29th. And then
we went out for dinner a couple of times in the city.
We went out for dinner. Then we went to Costa Rica, and oh man, having a food critic eating my mom's food was something, you know. And then we took a trip to a lot of bars and restaurants around the country. We rented a car. I mean, it was fun. Fun.
Blues Brothers eating tour in Costa Rica.
8 years ago.
And Costa Rica has some fabulous food. I've done the road trip myself.
Oh, really?
Can I ask you, Bryan, before the River Cafe, some 40 years ago, there was almost nothing in that part of Brooklyn. Did the River Cafe set the stage for Dumbo, in your opinion?
Well, interesting. When I was a critic, let's say in the mid 80s to early 90s, I wanted to review restaurants in all 5 boroughs. Believe it or not, other than the River Cafe and Peter Luger's, there was nothing in Brooklyn. I couldn't find anything there, but there was just nothing there. I found something in Staten Island before I found it in Brooklyn. But yes, obviously, Peter Luger's been there forever, but it's part of town.
But Javier, how unusual is that?
Yeah.
You think about that. The restaurant had that kind of clout and influence in urban planning. It's amazing.
I mean,
gentrification generally begins with restaurants. They're the ones who go out front and take the risk, and hoping that they're just in front of the wave of residential. And it usually happens that way. It's like when Montfranchet opened in Tribeca.
Yes.
Down there. And I gave it 3 stars. And then, according to Drew Nieper, the owners, that people just started, other restaurants started, people started, taking apartments in the old industrial buildings. So yeah, and the River Cafe was definitely that. I mean, that sparked. The thing about that is some people with money went to the cafe and saw the possibility there.
And that view.
People from New York City, from Manhattan, from hotels, crossing the bridge is a big deal, you know?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Brooklyn, the River Cafe was the first place that I went in Brooklyn. I was in Manhattan for 3 years, and I'm like, Brooklyn, what do you do in Brooklyn? And once did you go to Brooklyn?
When you see that, New York is a port. It's a seafaring city, and there have always been very few restaurants with water views. Look on the west side, maybe way down now, but we had very little restaurant development on the waterfront. It probably has to do with real estate more than anything else.
Frederick, you having a beer?
No.
Oh.
I'm having an iced coffee. My throat's a little dry, but I'm okay.
It's a holiday weekend.
I know. I'm like, they might be behind. They might like getting my Corona.
We're way behind. After this virus is over, we have some catching up to do.
Oh God, yes.
Javier, you represent really the true American dream. Coming from Costa Rica to the United States as a young man, working your way in restaurants to then be at the River Cafe and be the icon really there, you know, the main person for so many years. What motivated you in the restaurant business and then to stay at the River Cafe and excel for so many years?
Well, I mean, the River Cafe really was the reason why I stayed in New York City. I came like many just to visit and travel and enjoy what the capital of the world was. And 2.5 years after I arrived, I decided to actually settle. And I think it's just the magic of, you know, for me especially, I love people. And meeting 300, 400 people a day that are happy and they are just coming in to have a good time. It was like a party every day. Yeah. You know, the standards of service and food and just, you know, the whole ambience is magical. So for me, really, it was a dream come true 20 years ago. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And people stay there. It's not as if you're changing staff all the time and new managers and all of that. So.
We have, I mean, we're doing a small documentary about the River Cafe before all this happened. And, you know, we interview people that were there the first week of the River Cafe opened as customers, as well as employees that have been there since they opened. In 1977, you know, I was born in 1977, so I know it was a few years ago.
Chefs, it's incredible. You've had Borgione, David Burke, Charlie Palmer, an amazing.
Well, it was. I think. I mean, Bryan can definitely get the better answer of this, but in his article in the New York Times that he wrote in the 40th anniversary, he emphasized the fact that, you know, it is like a school of really talented chefs who are currently restaurant owners. You know, Charlie Palmer has an empire. David Burke is becoming another big shot, owning a lot of restaurants in the last 3 or 4 years. But he had a lot of fame as well. Larry Forgione, I believe, was one of the pioneers in American food.
I reviewed it twice over 10 years. I reviewed it twice. I think the first time was, when was David there?
I think you reviewed David in 88. He was there from 88 to 92, I think. Palmer was 84 to 88, something like that. Forgione was like 77.
I gave it 3 stars both times.
Wow. That's remarkable.
I believe you were the longest serving restaurant critic at the New York Times. I think you dined out 5,123 times. So is it a job or is it something that gets old?
Well, I'm a journalist basically, and I liken it to it's your beat. You have a beat. You know, you're on your beat. And you have to really love what you're doing, and you do it over and over and over and over every day. And you know, restaurants were my beat, and I loved it. And I always said, if there was ever an evening I didn't feel like going out, I wouldn't go out because it's not fair to the restaurants. I wanted to go out the way my readers did, you know, really looking forward to it with a positive attitude, looking for good things. So for whatever genetic malfunction I have, all 5,000 times I looked forward to going out, even if it was a bad place, because I just love, like Javier said, it is like theater. It has all the elements of that. Of course, you know, food is the most important, but Yeah, people can't believe it. It's true. And the only reason I stopped, because I was tired of going out, I stopped because as a writer, it was getting kind of repetitive. Like, how many ways can you describe a roast chicken? So I just thought I have to start writing about something else, and that's why I did it. You know, it wasn't because I was just couldn't face another restaurant.
Does the theater of a particular restaurant play a part in evaluation? The decor?
Oh yeah,
service?
yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I had a rough in which like 70%, 65 was strictly the food. I put the wine in there as well. Like 20% was the ambiance, and it could be getting back to the food. I'm teaching my 15-year-old how to cook now, and I always say, you eat with your eyes, Sean. You know, make it look nice. And he always does. He wipes the plate, but that's all part of the food aspect of it. You know, of course, you know, the dining room and everything else.
Places. This was all anonymous, right? They didn't know that you were coming or didn't know who you.
No. I had phony names. I had phony credit cards. I had, you know, after a while they get to know you, like Cirio Lasirk and Daniel Ballou and all these people. You know, they make a point of knowing who I am. And then before I was the critic, I was a food writer, so I did interview some of these people. But my feeling is about disguises. I never used a disguise. And the reason is, let's take the River Cafe, for instance. I would go to a restaurant at least 3 times with at least 4 people before reviewing. So that's like roughly 40 dishes. In a place like River Cafe, I'd probably go even more. So that's 45 dishes I try. Now, if they happen to know, I show up unannounced at the restaurant, okay, and they have 2 hours to, you know, to serve my table and all. You can't fake 45 dishes. And if they don't know I'm coming, I've worked in restaurant kitchens, and they said, well, you know, the chef said, well, a critic is coming in. I said, well, what are we going to do? Give them a bigger steak? I mean, you know, as you know, in the business, everything is prepped when you get to the restaurant. The sauces are made, everything is made. So they can't jump up and do better food for me. If they're going to do better food for me, what about the other schmucks out there? So yeah.
I think it's just a fascinating career being a food critic. For Javier, I don't want to start a fight, but what does the restaurant industry think of food critics?
Well, we sell insurance too. Now, you know, it is in my career, I have encountered 2 different critics at the River Cafe, and one at Patri, I believe, when I was young. But I was, you know, I was really a small, my role at Patri. But when we were at the River Cafe, you know, really my mentality was for them every day, just think that that person is a food critic. But when we got one, it was definitely stressful. It was definitely, you know, you gotta keep an eye on the ball, that because you don't want a dish to drop. You don't, and accidents happen. You know, I really don't think that people don't like restaurant critics. I think it's more in the restaurant people, it's more like it's a respect that you have to them, and you know that a critic could break or make a restaurant. You know, but yeah, as long as you are true to yourself and what you are doing, it's hard. I mean, if you are happy with what you're doing, people will know that.
And you know, I've seen you work, Javier, and you really do treat everyone like a food critic. You're on all the time, and you just
Mhm.
make it happen. You light up, really. Pretty
There's a
incredible.
good
Thank you.
saying that a British food writer once wrote that the restaurateur, what he thinks about critics is like asking a lamppost how it feels about dogs.
Oh my God. So Bryan, is this still a powerful position, being a food critic?
Well, see, when I started, in the early '80s, there was no internet, there was no Yelp, no Zagat was just starting, and actually, aside from Gail Green, I was the only restaurant critic in New York, and I think I had too much power. Question: No, the New York Times restaurant critic has about half of the influence I do, only because there are all these other people running around doing it.
Yeah, you truly are a pioneer. Did you ever review the River Cafe? I should know this, but
Yeah, twice.
Yeah.
I gave it 3 stars.
wow.
Both times.
Excellent.
You might say, why not 4? I have to think back, why not 4? It was really good.
Javier, you've been a tremendous friend to both Freddie and myself and the rest of the concierge community here in New York. In fact, in the true spirit of friendship, when the Waldorf Astoria closed 3 years ago, you were the first friend who came to me, took me to dinner, and said, Michael, would you like to be at the River Cafe? We would love to have your presence there. But I learned the unique etiquette of jackets for gentlemen, no chewing gum, no water bottles, no backpacks, no torn jeans. It's really one of the last remaining places like that and running strong. Can you tell us about that unique etiquette, but also your important relationship with our concierge community here in New York?
River Cafe is a place where tourists from all over the world come, and they come because of word of mouth, and they come because wonderful concierge are telling people where to go and what to do in New York City. We're thankfully we're one of those chosen ones. Remember when you used to go to church with a hat and a suit on Sundays? Espacio Kiev wants to continue with that tradition, which, like you said, yes, there are only 5 or 6 restaurants right now in New York that requires to wear suit jackets. But it is out of respect to everyone. Fashions come in waves, but traditional, classic, always stays.
Something about, speaking of that service, that standard, a lot of people gripe, especially a lot of the internet people, that they really, really take umbrage at a restaurateur or a maître d', whoever, who seems to be giving special treatment to one party. Let's say, Javier goes over, he spends more time talking to their regulars. And people think, oh, it's just not fair. I'm not getting treated the same way. I always say that restaurants are not democratic institutions. They're service businesses. So your best customers get something a little extra. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as you have a standard of excellence that the restaurant adheres to. As long as everybody gets that high standard, if some people get this, so what? I mean, but a lot of people just get so bent out of shape about that. Your best customers, it could be a dry cleaner or whatever. Best customers deserve a little more. It's not like they're taking it away from everybody else. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure you come across that, Javier, a lot.
There's something to be said about loyalty.
Right? Regular customers. Your regular customers are. Yeah, I mean, the River Cafe has a very unique situation that not all the restaurants I have ever been has. They have a section, but a table by the window it has to be the hottest commodity in New York City. When at the River Cafe, out of 100 people, 99 people ask you for a window table, but you can only see 20. It is that's when the magic really happens. That's when, because people from the beginning, there is a saying that if you're not happy where you are sitting, the food is gonna taste bitter. Like if you are bitter from the beginning, anything that you eat is gonna taste bitter in the restaurant. When you go to a restaurant, you sit in a corner table that is right next to the bathroom. You don't want to be there. At the Real Cafe, we don't have tables by the bathroom, but there are 9 tables that are the desired commodity of every single person that night. They're all wearing suit jackets. They're all wearing ties. They all have anniversaries. They all are coming from all over the world for one special night. But at the end of the night, with the whole charming of music, service, and food and ambience, everyone walks out happy.
And Javier, I have to tell you, I really like sitting back away from the window. I love seeing all the diners and that beautiful view just beyond.
It's like a Broadway show.
Yeah.
It is like a Broadway show. That's the way that
consider those the best seats.
Yeah,
yep.
That's what I like personally. But
it is a touch of magic, as you mentioned, Javier and everyone that's being there. You really see how
Michael did it.
How the majority of the people really are very respectful of the interior, the flowers, the person playing the piano, the waiters, the whole atmosphere, the setting. People want to look good when they're there.
Yeah.
They want to be part of that beautiful, elegant setting.
A lot of them are proposing,
Yes.
A lot of them are in their 50th anniversary, 25th anniversary, the significant other's birthday. So everybody wants to have a good time, which is, that is a good night out.
Yeah.
Anywhere you sit, it's a good time at the River Cafe.